A professional. Welcome to the Hooniverse podcast. This is episode 320. I'm your host, Jeff Glucker. Joining me is my man, Ron Baugh. How are you doing, sir?
What's up? I'm well, man.
Good.
As usual. I was a little tired. Just took a shower, kind of refresh. Got a glass of tequila here.
You're on my train now.
Yeah, dude. I had a Red Bull at 4 p.m. today, and
night.
I was frazzled and just fucking jacked up for my commute home, and then I crashed hard. I was just
Bread Bowl put you out.
Dude.
What'd you have in the bread bowl?
Red Bull.
Oh, I thought you said. Oh, you had a Red Bull.
Yes, Red Bull.
Oh, I thought.
I was like, wait. What?
I thought you said you had a bread bowl.
Nah.
Which is a delicious way to eat soup.
I would have preferred a bread bowl over this.
Right. And then that's why I was like, oh, dude, yeah, absolutely. That makes you super tired. Like that's.
This was like, I had my wings and then my wings got clipped and I crashed.
And then they got clipped. Your ass got clipped. That so happens with Red Bull.
Can you hear me? I just realized the mic is behind my monitor. What's it sound like?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
As you get closer to it, obviously it sounds better.
It usually gets really tinny the further away I am from it. So.
It does get tinny.
Yeah, so it's
oh, look at this, moving gear around. I love it. And this is actually perfect as you're doing this, because the way I wanted to start this show is that I feel like in the beginning of these shows and at various points, it's okay to talk about non-car stuff.
Totally.
Because I've recently
car robots.
Exactly. And if we just talked about car stuff constantly, like this will be a car podcast. It is a car podcast, but there will be topics that don't have to be car related.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because I one of my favorite TV shows is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
Just think it's the best. They're so good at it. Those three started a podcast.
Oh no.
Yeah. And it's short too. It's like 30 to 45-minute episodes.
Oh, I can't wait.
And they are so good. They're so funny. And they're just so good on the podcast, and it's hilarious. But sometimes they're talking about, the idea is that they're supposed to go through the episodes and talk about that episode and work their way through. And they veer right off and don't talk about that shit.
Perfect.
So that's why I was thinking, like, it's okay for us to talk about non-car shit. Like I sat down here tonight and I'm realizing, like, as I'm looking at myself, because I sit here for like 10 minutes before you or guests or anybody signs on, because I want to make sure everything's up and running.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure I have all my windows up. I want to make sure I have my drink, my lighting. So I'm staring at myself, for 10, 15 minutes, sometimes longer. I mean, I'm doing stuff in other windows too, but it's got me thinking, like, I'm getting older. I'm 41 and I haven't had a regular doctor in years. And I should probably change that.
Did we just get a WebMD sponsorship? What's happening?
No, this episode brought to you by Aging Terror. That was Aging Terror.
Yes.
Let me enunciate my words. And I don't know how, as an adult man, to find a new doctor, because I feel like, and people are already tuning off to this episode, but some of you are hanging in there. And
it's a legit
I don't know, because I don't want to pick a bad one. Like I want a younger doctor, but not fresh out of med school. I want one who's open to trying new things in case, I don't want an ancient guy who's like, well, take this turmeric and some Robitussin and call me in the morning. Good luck with your testicle. I want a dude. Yeah, I want a dude who's like in the middle of his career, who's like, yeah, there's some really cool stuff on the horizon, but I also know about the old tried and true ways. Not some guy who's like, hey, so I just got out of med school and I owe so much money, and man, that doesn't right. I don't want Mickey Mouse working on me. I want fucking, Patrick Dempsey from Grey's Anatomy. Like I want that dude.
Sorry, that reference goes over my head. I mean,
that's fine. I want a younger doctor.
But I've never ever seen.
It doesn't have to be a handsome male who likes racing Porsches. It could be man, woman, anybody. Just somebody
similar interests.
I don't know.
Similar hair.
Well, his hair's pretty damn good. That's I will selfishly, narcissistically, fully admit that I have pretty good hair.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, and so did
We have.
Lynn Woodward.
However,
So did I.
there are a few hair icons that I'll be like, yo. And Dempsey is up, but he's Hollywood, so he can, even if he didn't have good hair, he could afford good hair.
I'm hoping to one day be able to afford to have hair again.
Imagine like one day episode 425. I should make 420. Episode, you show up and just like
a ponytail,
guys,
full on
Fabio. You have like a surfer accent. Hey, bro. got a surfer. I got a longboard on the roof of the Fox, man. Or the Tahoe. Let's do it.
We should explore, or I should explore some Keeps. Sponsorship. Keeps. You're out there. If you're listening.
It's the hot new. Yeah. Oh, that's a fucking good reference right there. For those of you who don't know, like every YouTube channel, probably a bunch of podcasts right now are like, that's every like 6 months, there's a new hot advertiser that obviously doesn't care about us, but there's a hot new advertiser. Like a couple years ago, it was Dollar Shave Club, and I got hooked up on that because of our friend Anthony's boy or cousin.
Oh, really?
Bobby.
Oh, yeah.
Got me a little bit of a deal with Dollar Shave Club where we did some YouTube stuff, and then there's like Harry's razors, and then there's like the pillows or the mattresses, and then it's always the same.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell that like they're going like, let's spend money in this space, and they hit everybody.
When I was at Hoonigan, it was my job to corral those sponsorships.
Okay.
And deal with those companies. So
and Ron referenced Keeps. Keeps is like supposed to be combating hair loss,
yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's like restorative, like not even like preventing hair loss, but it's supposed to be restorative. I've never heard of anything that actually really works. So I'd love to give it a try personally and see, but I've tried stuff and just never stuck with it. So it's just like, I can't even blame myself. I'm just like, this is annoying. Like I got to remember to do this 2 times a day or whatever it is. Like whether it's like a topical thing or like a pill, like it's just like, I personally don't even have the patience for it. I'm like, I'll just shave my shit short and call it a day.
It's funny because I'm terrified.
Accept my fate.
One day
I'll be straight up the Rock and just smooth shaven.
Yeah. I've never shaved my head, and the thought of it absolutely terrifies me.
Luckily,
I'd be like,
luckily my head's misshapen.
What? Yeah, I don't know what it looks like. It would make the lack of hair would make my nose like look 3 inches longer, and then like it'd also be like whiter than staring into the sun because it's never seen the sun, and then it wouldn't grow back. I would tempt fate, and then I would end up looking like my brother and my dad, and I'd be like, fuck. And I don't care if they are listening and they heard that, they know too. Trust me. I sometimes will take a FaceTime with my younger brother, my only brother, who is a monster compared to me. He's into MMA. He's huge. He's jacked, but he is bald. And sometimes I'll just be on the phone being like, just like casually doing this.
2,000 miles away, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm going to see him in like a week though too. So maybe he's going to punch me in the gut. All right. That was my segue. And I didn't really have a good topic, but if anybody knows how to find a good doctor as an adult, hit me up.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Like the last time I went to like a general physician was like 5 or 6 years ago. And it wasn't a bad experience, but it wasn't like, oh man, I cannot wait to go back to the doctor. It was just like, I was just like, take a number, fucking, here's your test, your test results. Like, called me and left a message with my test results. Like, said I was pretty much healthy, but I had like, not unusually high, but higher than average cholesterol, and like, with everything else considered, I was like,
because of all the bread bowls.
Pretty good about this, yeah. But
it's all the bread bowls you're eating.
Yeah, but I've had periods where I've had high blood pressure. I had a dentist. I went to the dentist once, and they took my blood pressure, and they were like, "We can't see you today. Like, we can't go any further because your blood pressure is so high." I mean, it was a point in my life where I was changing jobs. I was changing homes. Like, I was looking for a home. We were being forced out of our place. Like, there was just so much going on, like relationship drama. It was just like, it was the wildest period of my life where everything at once was just like beating, like just hammering me daily. And it was, I sat down, they took my blood pressure, and they were just like, yeah, like, we can't
go home.
We can't do anything. Like, you need to go seek
that happened to me
first. I was like, oh
yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't too high where they couldn't do stuff. They're like, we're going to take that again. That was a little higher than we'd like. I was like, Great. I clearly have cancer. I shouldn't go on WebMD. But like, I just, there's things I need to answer. I have questions about,
Oh,
like my left knee has started to ache when I ride the Peloton, and like, you shouldn't push a knee,
sure.
but like, I just want the doctor to be like, it's just, you stretch, you fucking lazy shit,
Right.
just stretch,
Right.
like shit like that.
Yeah.
And there's other questions, and as I said, 41 years old, you start to think about, like, I have crested the hill,
Totally.
so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see
We're the same age.
I can see the valley.
Yeah.
I don't see the mountain anymore. I see the valley. Like, again, we're not old.
Yeah. I don't
We
feel like over the hill or turning 40 meant what it did to our
Sure.
parents' generation. Like,
Right.
I feel like we're much more youthful, spry, active, and just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd say it this way, but cooler than 40-year-olds of our parents' generation. But
Sure.
it is what it is. Like,
Yeah, my
we're
dad didn't
living
drive
longer, and
my dad didn't drive a fucking black Jag with a V8. Fuck that. This shit's
totally driving
dope.
an old man Chevy truck from the '90s, the same shit
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
50-year-old dude would have driven in 1996. So
No
I guess,
offense, Dad,
I guess,
but your escort wagon didn't cut it.
yeah.
And I stole that shit one night and you caught me. That's actually a really funny story. So I'll tell that right now, because that is about
Let's talk
cars.
about some
And before we get into the list, because like I said, I barely wrote a script today for this show. Years ago, when I was in high school, before I had my driver's license, but I was like, I can drive that car. My parents were divorced, and they each had an escort wagon. One was green, one was blue.
Did they buy them independently, or did they buy them at the
No,
same
because
time?
when
And then,
my dad got out of the Navy, and then we moved back to Boston from Southern California,
I didn't know you
they
ever lived there.
they sold. We drove cross country in an Explorer Sport in '92, and then they sold that when we got here and turned it into two brand new Escort wagons, which was, they each needed a car. Seemed like a fine deal.
Amazing.
But one night, then they got divorced, and then my mom fell asleep. I was at my mom's house, and me and my buddy, I'm like, yo, I'm going to take my mom's car. And like, we're just going to cruise town. Like, it's this tiny town outside Boston. We're going to cruise the town. We get in, we're driving, and I think my mom woke up, realized her car was gone, and called my dad. My dad's out in his escort wagon, and we pass each other.
No!
Yep. And so me and my buddy Karim, we look into the car. My dad looks at us. I'm like, fuck. And I pull over. He turns around. My buddy Karim looks at me. He goes, yo, I'm going to run. I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't care. Go. And we like live on the same street. And my dad, he's like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I just went for a joyride. And like, they were convinced I'd been doing this.
Right.
I'm like, this is literally the first and only time I've done this. This is literally the first time. And my dad was like, yo, he didn't say yo.
Yeah,
He's like, tell Karim I saw him too. I'm like, oh shit, okay. And like, I was a good kid. Like, so this was like kind of out of character. And they were like, you're in trouble, but fucking don't be stupid. I'm like, all right, sorry. There were worse things to come when I got into drinking, but not car related. But so yeah, I passed my dad. Like, he was literally looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and we're our escort wagons passing in the night.
That's
that
brilliant.
was like good shit.
Oh my
Yep.
God.
Okay,
I stole my first car before I had a license, and both my grandparents were out, and I thought it would
I
be
think I heard
the
this. Yeah.
perfect time to take my own car out. I just ripped around the neighborhood, and I was listening to Goody Mob album, and I just I was like, I'm grown. Like, this is amazing. This is the best thing ever. Like, I cannot wait to turn 16. I was 15, so I had a learner's permit. But like you could not trust me to stay planted at home with this car. I had a 93 Mustang GT convertible.
Right.
And it's like winter, so it's not even like a sexy time to be out with the top down or anything. But I had to let the top down. Cruising around, it's like November, it's like 25 degrees, and I'm cruising around blasting Goody Mob and just praying that neither of my grandparents came home and either saw me out with the car. My excuse was that I used to drive up and down the street after I washed the car to get all the water, crevices and stuff. So I'd be like, oh, I just went around the corner if they came home. Meanwhile,
right.
I didn't get caught. I don't know if anybody ever found out. Nobody ever said.
You're like,
so I think
you're like blasting summertime, and you're freezing and shit. Summertime.
Myself up.
Yeah, fucking, that's great. All right, on to our first actual real car
Yeah.
topic. You were fortunate to go to a memorable NASCAR event that just happened in LA. The
Yes.
Clash at the Coliseum. Tell us
Yes.
about
I
it.
was extremely fortunate because I'd actually purchased tickets, and like I wasn't sure if I had them. That was a weird deal, but just a few days before the event, my friend Jason Simmons, who works for NASCAR, he's in, I think he's in like international strategy for NASCAR, and
That's a thing?
yeah, yeah, like they have NASCAR Mexico Series, they have
Oh, I didn't know that.
Canada, I believe. Like I think there's more than that. I apologize that I didn't do my research and check with him, but we actually didn't get a chance to meet up at the race, which was disappointing. But he was working, he was there kind of last minute deal. So anyhow, he hooked me up with VIP passes, and that was crucial because it allowed us not just access but ease of entry, and it was a nightmare getting into the track. Like
Really?
I want to tell you guys all about the full experience. Like it was the first hour, like on premises, was an absolute nightmare.
Hmm.
And I think that's because they didn't really open up all the normal parking structures and venues and parking lots that are available, say, for an SC game. But also, right across the street from the Coliseum, they're building a new, some George Lucas. What was it called? It was the George Lucas. Basically, it's a new museum, and that eliminated a shit ton of parking spots that were previously available for USC football games. So,
Can you still park on the golf course?
what golf course? There's no golf course down there. There's
I
a
thought
bunch
there
of
was a golf
grass.
course.
Like there's the grass in front of the Natural History Museum, and that's where I ended up parking. Like,
Oh, I
they,
thought that was a golf course. Dude,
no,
I've been there once and I was fucking hammered.
no.
I thought that was a golf
I've been
course.
there a lot of times, and I was fucking hammered for a lot of those. I went to USC. We used to tailgate like crazy. My friends and I built a 1965 Volkswagen Bus, like the ultimate tailgate machine, back in like 2006. And so we got a good run out of that thing, and like it was super popular. And it was like a central location right outside the Coliseum, like literally across the street, and like on the lawn of the Natural History Museum. And
Okay.
anyway, that's where I ended up parking, but it took about an hour and 15 minutes in order to park. And then there was a nightmare. Like they didn't want to let us walk around the short way around the Coliseum to get to the VIP entrance, but ultimately they did. It was just, first time bullshit. Like, people just didn't know what was going on. They didn't know how to deal with, anything that was outside of this box that they were informed everybody would conform to. And it's like, they're going to come to you with this ticket or this ticket, and you've got to check vaccination and this and check ID. Like, if there was any static, any sort of hiccup, people were just like, I don't know. Could you just step over there and like somebody will deal with you, right?
That's so annoying.
Yeah. So, it's a weird time. So I tried to be patient.
Sure.
And finally got in. And once I got in, everything was smooth, beautiful, just like flowed incredibly well. There was a VIP section in the peristyle seating in the end zone. Like that was where all the teams, all the sponsors, everybody basically set up their VIP guests. So I was super thankful for that, and ended up sitting next to the Smoking Tire crew. So I was next to Farah and Zach, and Rob Holland was even there. And I didn't get to meet him. I've never met him before, but he was basically there with Matt and the Valvoline crew. Rob Dom was there. Like we were all basically in the. I had one of my friends, one of my fraternity brothers from SC. Actually, he was there as a guest of Team Hendrick. His girlfriend's brother is on the team, and so we all just kind of coalesced there and hung out with those guys, and it was cool, man. It was totally cool. The race. So we got there in time for the last chance qualifier, race number 2, and that was exciting as hell. Like I don't know if people. I've seen a lot of people bagging on it and just saying the course is too short. That's stupid. Like that's no fun. Like you can't even race in that space. And it was. I watched qualifying on Saturday night, and it was pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
One car at a time. It's not super loud. It's not super exciting. There's not the sense of speed of any other track. But it's hard on brakes, and getting off the corner and hooking up is critical. And I mean, you have to keep in mind this is a brand new car. This is
Yeah.
the next gen car. It's never been run before. They've been testing for the last couple months, but this is the public debut for this brand new car that is more resemblant of actual street cars,
Mm.
and it's a shorter wheelbase. It's smaller overall. It looks more like the Camaros, Mustangs, etc. That they're based on. They went from 15-inch steel wheels with bias-ply tires to 18-inch forged aluminum wheels with center locks and
Wow.
radial tires, and it's a huge adjustment for everybody involved. So it was a big deal for them to debut that car in a foreign track, a brand new track in such a small format. Like NASCAR hasn't raced on a quarter, or at least the Cup Series hasn't raced on a quarter-mile track in decades. So
Right.
it was new for everybody, and it didn't look like there was room to pass, but there was. And the racing was super exciting. There was a lot of bumping and banging in that last chance qualifier race that I got to see. And then the A main, or the actual Clash race, it was thrilling, man. It was so loud, and the energy just skyrocketed once that race started, because I think everybody was so used to like 7, 10 cars on the track at once, and then you double the number of cars, and it's just
Mm.
deafening. And it's like they really don't shift. They're pretty much in second gear the entire time.
Makes sense.
But
Sure.
hearing the cars in succession going around the track, it just sounds like they're shifting, and like it's like they're constantly accelerating. It just sounds like constant accelerating, downshifting, upshifting. It was incredible, man. Like the energy was off the charts, and everybody that I was with, my friends, I was with 4 or 5 friends that had never been to a NASCAR race before, and they loved it, even though they didn't know what
That's
the hell was
huge.
going on.
Yep.
And like I said, my buddy Corey Burns, who is from Con Media,
Right.
was next to me, and he was there with the Smoking Tire crew, and we're kind of all industry guys. Like we've kind of seen it all, and I think I love NASCAR. Like I think they've made some huge improvements in the last couple of years, and like they've done some weird shit. Like I don't like the stage racing, but
Yeah.
just racing on dirt at Bristol last year, racing at Coda, opening the season last year with the Clash on the road course at Daytona. Like they're making strides to make the racing more modern, more appealing, and this, in my opinion, was a huge step in that direction, because supposedly like 50% of the fans at the race on Sunday had never been to a NASCAR race before. They made certain concessions for sure to a more urban and ethnic crowd by having Pitbull as a performer, but Pitbull is now a partial NASCAR team owner, so he's
Right.
part of the family. Like that was definitely a concession, but I didn't watch his performance, but he's part of the NASCAR family now. He's a team owner. Ice Cube, his performance was less than stellar, but it was still cool to see Ice Cube perform in the LA Coliseum. I don't care for what it is,
Right.
but being attached to a NASCAR race, it was kind of weird, but it was kind of cool too.
He seems like the type of guy who, I mean, he probably doesn't practice the music side of his craft anymore.
Doubtful. Yeah. I mean,
Like he
he
probably
Coachella
goes
a
into
few
the
years ago,
studio.
and he was great, but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
He
for
was-
something like this, it's like
He's an actor now.
sure.
And
I think that's what.
he probably goes into the studio for like a week before the thing and goes like, "Oh shit, I got to remember these songs."
Yeah, I don't know. That was what was weird. Was like, is he lip syncing to a backing track, or is the sound off? Because like
Echo, yeah.
it was hard to tell, but it wasn't on point. That's all I'll say. It wasn't totally convincing, and that was disappointing. Also, Ice Cube censored for a PG crowd. It's not the same. It's
You can do it, put your heart into it.
yeah.
You can do it, put your heart into
Yeah, it was just like that, and so that part was a little disappointing. But it was true, a real LA icon in a real iconic LA venue.
Though, Super Bowl is gonna be fucking sick.
Oh yeah, totally, totally. But it's not in the Coliseum either. It's the Coliseum is almost 100 years old. Like
it is.
It's not It's been recently updated, but it has the layout and the ergonomics of a 100-year-old stadium. So.
Yeah, that shit was like even at the '84 Olympics. They're like, "Yo, this is kind of old."
Yeah. Hard to believe that was almost 40 years ago. Oh my God, we're old. Do you remember
was
watching the
4.
'84 Olympics? I do.
No, because I was 4.
So was I. But I remember watching Edwin Moses, Carl Lewis, like Jackie Joyner Kersey. I remember.
No, I was at 4. I was just looking down at my wiener, going, "That's cool."
Okay, no, I'm not gonna touch that. Moving on.
And then you grow up and you're like, "Oh shit, it stayed the same size." I'm sorry for chewing ice in the microphone, everybody.
Did you get a head start on
No,
drinking?
2. I had 2.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't go full buck. I'm glad you had fun. It was
Yes.
good hearing you talk about that stuff. I saw that
I will
Matt.
say this. Like I said, a lot of people trashed it, or just I think a lot of people that didn't experience it, and I haven't watched it on television yet. I recorded the race, but I haven't watched it. I don't know how it translated to television. I honestly don't. So it could have been totally boring and
I heard
lame
not
on television because there wasn't
Right.
a ton of passing and there wasn't a ton of like bumping and banging in the
I heard it
final
didn't
race.
translate well.
But anybody that was in the Coliseum on Sunday, I don't know about Saturday, but anybody that was there on Sunday had a good time, enjoyed the racing, enjoyed the atmosphere. I haven't met a single person that complained about it that was actually at the venue.
I agree with you based on what I've seen on social media, based on people I know who were there and who weren't there.
Right.
And the ones who were there, yourself included, Matt and Zach included, they see, and Matt and Zach aren't the ones to be like, "Ooh, NASCAR."
Exactly,
like that's not in their wheelhouse.
That's what I'm saying. It's a tough crowd. Those guys.
And they seem to really, really like it. And then there's like hardcore racing fans who weren't there who are like, there's no passing the and right.
I would encourage anybody that's curious about it and that's a reader to read Rob Holland's article about it.
Oh yeah.
In
Yep.
July.
Good call.
I posted that on my Instagram. But I mean, Rob Holland is a real racer. He's a real race car driver that had a very genuine perspective. And he admitted
also I'd like to point out that he's Shift Talker's guest.
Oh shit! I don't think I saw his episode. Really?
Yeah.
Glad we weren't pitted against.
It was race car drivers versus journalists.
Oh really?
Like I'm sorry, I keep bringing up Shift Talkers. Trying to like manifest season 3 into
existence. Go.
Yeah,
Season
it was
champion.
him. Who I'm trying to remember who the other race car driver is now. I feel fucking terrible because it wasn't Jesse Owuje coming back. Who was also just got a huge kick-ass NASCAR deal.
Yeah, he's partnered with Emmett Smith. Emmett Smith is funding his team.
Yeah, yep. It was Rob Holland and Johnny Lieberman are the only two I can remember from that episode. But sorry, go ahead. Keep talking about his article and why it was good.
It was just from a racer's perspective, and he admitted there were a lot of concessions to broadening NASCAR's fan base, but they were genuine, even if they weren't executed like the concerts, even if they weren't executed to everyone's liking. Like they were genuine concessions to broadening the fan base and opening the eyes of people that would have never otherwise even considered going to a NASCAR race. Like, all right, I don't have to go an hour and a half east to Fontana.
Right.
I can literally,
which is done, right?
Take the train. Or I can take an Uber. Most of my friends Ubered from Hollywood or even the Valley, and still cheaper and easier than parking. And it just made it so much more accessible than any other venue in Southern California or anywhere else. Like you can't do this in New York. Like noise ordinances. I'm sure there's like wherever Homestead is. Like I'm sure Homestead is not within Miami. I right. But like those are like the two major cities that would be comparable market size, and I can't think of anywhere within city limits of either of those that you.
Though Miami's trying to get that F1 race, which would be fucking bananas.
Right. Well, no, it's done. That's a done deal. Vegas hasn't been announced yet, but Miami is definitely happening in May.
Okay. Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
And I just double checked, and it was Rob Holland and Jesse Owuje.
Oh, really?
Versus Johnny Lieberman and Jason Toczynski.
Oh man, I gotta go back and watch that.
Yeah. And everybody in that episode is fantastic. Those are some of my favorite guests. Rob's awesome. Did I ever tell you about the time I met Rob Holland? So I was in Germany for the Nürburgring 24 as a guest of Aston Martin. And we went to what the hell was Sabina Schmidt's parents' steakhouse. Like it's the steakhouse. that I can't think of the name of. It's the one everybody goes to. There's shit all over the walls. It's fucking great. The like Piston Klaus or something. I think that might even be what it's called. And I walk in and I see a black guy with a little goatee, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Rob Holland. And I walk up, I'm like, hey, hey, I'm a big fan of yours, blah blah blah. And Alex Roy told me to come say hi. And he goes, did Alex say to find the only black guy in Germany? I go, literally, that's what he said. And he started laughing, and I started laughing. He's like, it's really nice to meet you, blah blah blah.
Oh man, that's funny because
that's how I met Rob in Germany.
That's super funny because not my first, but I don't know, it was probably my second or third Pebble Beach car week experience.
Yeah.
Our mutual friend Anthony Day and I, we went in 2016. We actually rented an RV and like got like a campground space and just
at Laguna.
No, not at the track.
Oh, okay.
Just somewhere close, like closer to the Quail. But anyway,
nice.
we had my buddy's Escalade to like cruise around, like check out all the events and stuff. But we went with literally no plan, no tickets, no nothing.
Sure.
And we were at Concorso Italiano and ran into Alex Roy. And he was like, we chatted for like 20 minutes, walked around, and he was super chill. And he was like, listen, it was the first time we had met. So, it was all of our introduction to one another. But he was like, hey, I'm actually working on a story about racism here at Pebble Beach at Car Week. He was like, if you guys have any stories, he gave us our card and he gave us his card and was just like, if you have any stories, shoot them over to me and let me know. And literally 2 hours later, we walk into a bar. I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I don't think definitely never told it publicly. We walk into a bar and the proprietor is an octogenarian, maybe 90-year-old white dude.
And you're in Monterey?
Yeah. We were in Carmel.
Okay.
And I don't remember the name of the bar. But anyway, this dude like is funny. He's just like, a dry wit, like just shit talking old dude. And at first it was funny, but then he started dropping M-bombs and saying all kinds of fucked up shit and just like telling all sorts of black jokes and Ethiopian jokes and shit. And it was just like, he finally like snapped back at some woman that like clinked her glass on the bar, like trying to get his attention. And he straight up said to her, and mind you, Anthony and I are sitting at the bar and like, I know we're ambiguous, but we're clearly not just white dudes. We're not. And Anthony's a large individual. He's like 6'2", like 280. Yep. And, I'm no slouch myself, but, we're not looking for a fight, but still he's like, lady, don't do that again. I'm not your N-word. And we're, and like, then it starts escalating. He just starts telling jokes and he feels like he's in his element. And he just starts to roll with it, and like the whole bar is just eating it up and laughing and shit. And this is 2016, so this is just a couple months before the election. And at one point he says, you know what? He's like, we're going to win because we're white, we're rich, and we're conservative. And I just put my drink down, or I finished my drink, and I was like, Anthony, let's go. And I walked outside because I'm like, yo, I'm about to throw something through this dude's window. Like, we're either going to choke him behind the bar, or I'm going to like start some shit right here. Like, we need to get out of here. And it was off-putting, but I texted Alex immediately, and I was just like, yo, here's a story, here's a play-by-play. And like, I don't know if he ever did anything with it. I don't even remember where he was working. I don't know if he was at the drive-in, but it was like, no, there's no racism in Pebble Beach. Like, this is a car community. Like, there's no, like, we'll never experience that. And 2 hours later, it was just like, oh my God, my blood is boiling. Like, yo, whatever you do, like, expose this dude, tell his story, because this is some bullshit. And we went back like the next 2 years hoping that the dude was dead. He was still there operating the bar. We went in, we totally bought drinks. I was just like, I actually wore a Killer Mike, Kill Your Masters sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And the next year that we went, and he was just like, kill your masters, huh? He was like, what are you, a slave? And I was like, not me, motherfucker. And Anthony and our other buddy Mike Rice got a kick out of that shit. But
you went back there with that on.
Yeah, just hoping to get a reaction. I got my reaction, and when I fired back, he was just like, he didn't say shit. We sat in there, had our drinks in peace, and my point was made, and I don't know if that dude's still alive, but it was
Now I want to find
an
out.
experience, and it was funny. It was just like nobody was thinking about that. We didn't I'd never experienced like such blatant racism and shit talking in. I mean, he wasn't necessarily a car guy. He wasn't part of the car community there. He was part
Of
of the
course, right?
community.
Sure.
But yeah, that was a shit time. But it was just ironic that Alex was like, "Hey, I'm talking about racism this week."
Yeah,
And
I
we were
know,
just
no.
like, "Whatever, dude." Like,
Yeah.
it was a
That's
stark
that's
reminder
a hell of a story.
of where we still are even today.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna hit the pause button real quick on
Mm-hmm.
this so that I'm gonna do this because I don't have to stop recording. I can hit pause so that I don't leave a 2-minute window while I go refill my drink because I have to leave the garage to go do it.
Go ahead.
So to you listening, it's gonna be magic, but to Ron and I, we'll be back in 2 seconds.
2 and 2.
I mean, cha-cha magic. So we're back. All right. So we're talking racism, and now we're going to move on to the Ford Mustang Mach-E, which has nothing to do with racism.
Except that Henry Ford was a fucking racist. We don't have to go into that.
Hey.
Literal Nazi sympathizer. But anyhow,
Yeah,
I'm a Ford
I
fan,
can't.
and I hate to admit it after learning of that. But yeah,
Same. My Jewish ancestors would be like, hey, maybe try Chevy. I'd be like, no, I don't want that Louis Chevrolet French bullshit. I'm just kidding.
have you seen that Blazer?
Yeah, fuck that car. So every single car company, if you go back, like Mitsubishi made, I think Mitsubishi made warplanes at some point,
Yeah.
And did I tell you what I got accused of on Instagram when I showed a picture of my tattoo?
No.
Someone was like, yo, why'd you get a rising sun? I'm like, bro, it's a sunset. It was done by a Japanese guy. Like my dad who's in the Navy was like, oh, neat. He didn't go like, whoa. I'm like, I didn't get a rising sun on my fucking arm. But whatever. So the Ford Mustang Mach-E.
Is it the GT?
Yes,
That's
I've had it for a week.
big, bad.
It should be here still right now because it's supposed to get picked up tomorrow, but it had to leave early. It's been great all week. It's been mostly great all week.
So.
The power's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it was grabber blue, which is a great color for any Ford.
I don't want to steal thunder from your YouTube review, but I don't know a whole hell of a lot about it. Is it dual
I wasn't
motor?
able to finish.
Is it all-wheel drive? Like, what's?
I wasn't able to finish my YouTube review for Hooniverse. We finished our Auto Trader review.
Mm-hmm.
It is all-wheel drive. It is dual motor, obviously. It has 480 horse, 600 pound-feet of torque.
Sick.
0 to 60, Ford quotes 3.8.
No shit.
There's a GT Performance Edition, which does 3.5, which the version I had was not. And that's important because the Performance Edition gets magnetic dampers.
Oh, okay.
The regular GT doesn't have that.
Okay.
And do you remember when the Focus RS came out and it was like, this car's great, except it's fucking way too stiff?
I don't.
They did say that. I was one of them. It's the same thing with this. It's where Ford goes like, oh, super stiff equals sporty.
Mm-hmm.
That's so there's the damping, the tuning is dog shit. It's like it bucks over. It's like, well, it's like what the fuck are we doing here? This is not a race car.
It's magnetic. Isn't it adjustable? Don't you have multiple settings?
No,
really?
you have the different drive modes, but this one does not have the magnetic.
Oh.
The Performance Edition has the magnetic.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So this one is just like this is just the GT,
mm-hmm.
And it's too stiff, it's too rough. Everything else was great until yesterday. So for the GT now, there's the 3 modes. There's like Whisper, something else, and then Unbridled. I had it in Unbridled the whole week, which is the fun mode. Now for 2022 on the GT, there's a mode called Unbridled Extended, which is like, this is for like tracks and like this is blah, blah, blah. And we just finished shooting it for Auto Trader. We had lunch. I hopped in the car. I was going to drive home. I'm like, yeah, I haven't tried extended yet. Let's hit extended. And then at first it wouldn't give it to me. It's like conditions aren't met. I'm like, the fuck conditions are you talking about? I'm like, all right. I waited. And then like later on I hit it and the button and it went. I was like, oh, unbridled extended. Like I didn't really notice a difference because I was just driving home.
This is like AMG Plus, or is it some weird?
Yeah. It's supposed to be like
Sport?
it's supposed to be less restrictive on traction and like more power, like not more power, but like constant power all the time in the corners, blah blah blah. It's supposed to just be like it's for tracks and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I don't fully know because I didn't fully do my job. But so drove it, pulled it into the driveway, plugged it in because I thought I was done driving it for the day. Blah blah blah. I'm home for a few hours. And then we were going to make dinner, but Jen's like, hey, I got to do some work shit real quick. Sloan's doing this. Can we just order dinner? I'm like, yeah, of course. I fucking love pizza. Let's get some pizza. So I order some pizza. I'm like, all right, I'm going to hop in I'm going to go pick it up. Hop in the Mustang. Or I unplug the Mustang and I hop in it and I hit start and I realized it hadn't charged when I pulled in at 60%. So I had plenty of charge, but it hadn't charged up. I was like, that's weird. And then all of a sudden it's not giving me, I can't take it out of park. And it says a message comes on that says stop safely now, which is weird because I'm in park in my driveway. And then another message says full accessory active. And I'm like, so all it's doing is turning the car on, but not activating like the drivetrain. I'm like, what the fuck? And I get out. And so I'm like fucking with the car a little bit. I'm like, and if I plug the charger back in,
with an electric car,
that's the thing. That's a great question. So I plug the charger back in, and it's supposed to be the charger light is supposed to glow white when it's charging, and it was orange, which is like something's wrong.
Danger.
But the actual plug was still glowing blue, which means there's no problem there. So I unplugged it, plugged it in, unplugged it, plugged it in. I was like, what the fuck? Hit the button, start. I'm like, all right, fuck it. I just hop in the Montero to go get the pizza. And I come back that night. I'm fucking with it more. It's not doing it. The next morning, this morning of this recording,
plugged in, or did you unplug it over?
No. I wasn't fucking with that. Yeah. Left it unplugged. The morning comes. It's still doing it. So then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna find the 12 volt and unplug the 12 volt and see if that clears codes. So I opened the frunk, pulled two pieces of trim out of the way, there was just clips, so it was easy. And I unclipped the battery terminals, let it sit for a bit, plugged it back in, put the trim back in. Same shit. I was like, this car's fucked right now. This car's fucked. All I did was use the only thing that I did different during the week was use a mode that Ford has made available. Right. So like I didn't do anything weird to the car. Ford's like, we're sending our tech right now, like to your house. I'm like, all right. They show up. They have computers plugged into it. They're running. They're constantly trying to clear codes, but the codes like they won't clear. And they think like the unbridled mode puts it into like a higher temp thing, but because then I parked it and charged it, the car's like thinks that it's like a potential. It's not a thermal event, but it's like something's too hot. Something's too hot, right. And like, but nothing's hot. The car's cold. Like nothing's wrong, but there's something in the car's brain that's like something is wrong. But just so I couldn't. It was in the garage too. Yeah. So you can't move. It has the dial for the gear selector. Yeah. Like I can't do anything. I can't put it in neutral. And like eventually the guy's like, all right, there's a like a routine I can do. Like GT500s have the same rotor. He's like, there's a thing we can do to get it out of your garage. I'm like, all right, yeah. I moved the Montero out of the way because it was in the driveway and blah, blah, blah. He's like, so we push it out, we get it outside, and then the car sat outside for like hours. And then finally a guy showed up. He's like, yep. And they just hauled it away on a tow truck. I have no idea what's wrong with it. It was great up until the last
situations day. Do they give you an update and tell you like what happened, or you just left to guess and wonder?
No, I could reach out and be like, hey, what happened? They might be like, they might tell me, they might not tell me. They were like, oh, I don't know. So it was weird. And the car was great minus the crashy too stiff suspension.
Right.
It was fun. I don't think it's worth the upcharge over a non-GT. Like fair is, what's that?
What's the price difference?
It's like 10 grand more for like less range. You get less range. Which is important in the EV conversation. It's the same look. You can get the same grabber blue colors. The interior is the same. I think the GT seats are a little bit more supportive.
Mm-hmm.
But you just, instead of going 0 to 60 in 3.8, you go 0 to 60 in like
4 or 5.
mid, just under 5. It's like, all right, fine. But then you get close to 300. And it wasn't, a lot of these modern EVs, you can easily beat or exceed the EPA estimate. They're fairly conservative.
Really?
With pretty much, I found, like in the Mercedes, the Porsche, and a few other things, I'm like, yeah, I'm having no problem beating what the EPA says. With the Mustang, I was way under. That car's supposed to get 270. After a full night of charging and getting into it at 100%, it would say you have like 220 something available. That's way under 270.
Yeah.
And it's a GT, so you're going to drive it hard. So it was easy to recoup miles out around town,
Yeah.
but everything else is more efficient. It's like, all right, that Kia EV6 is looking better and better by the moment.
Totally.
So, which is bummer because you and I are both.
I hate to hear it, but I don't know. Everybody's still figuring it out, man. You know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I agree with that.
We're still on the bleeding edge of this technology, and
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that just sucks.
Agree. But the Montero is, speaking of the Montero's back in action. Gauge cluster's back in. I'm still fighting the broken fuse, or not just fuse, broken hazard switch. It's like working, not working, working, not working, and that controls the turn signals. And I hate driving without turn signals.
Oh. Yeah, that's a problem.
So I just gotta. I know what the problem is. I just gotta fix it, and I can fix it, I think, pretty easily. So I'm not worried about it. But it's running. It's driving.
A visit to pick and part, or like
no. I can put the
bypassing a fuse.
I can put the switch back together enough where it will work without buying a new switch, because a new switch is like $60, which is fucking dumb for a switch. But it's driving. I've drove it up the mountain. I shot some dash cam footage. So we'll have a next-based dash cam video on the Montero soon.
Sick.
Yeah, and that'll be good. And then the new sound system sounds great. I can actually hear my music when I'm driving down the road. It's got rounded out sound to it. I had what I felt like was like a needlessly pseudo racist moment on my part as a white guilt moment.
Okay.
So yeah, what a lead in. There's a dude who works at the shop where the audio system was installed. Mm-hmm. Is a black gentleman that a friend of a friend actually knows. He's like, oh, I know this guy. We used to work on car audio shit before. Matt Valbuena, who was as a friend of the podcast and has asked questions before. He's like, I know this dude.
Is that I play with cars?
I was like, oh, what's that? I play with cars. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, if you go back there, ask for this guy. So when I go to pick up my truck, he's the one who's like, hey, let's hop in, play some music. If I need to adjust like something on the amp, we can do it. He's like, pop in some music you play. So I slide in, and I think I said on the way there, or maybe I told someone else, I'm like, I'm about to blast some Run the Jewels in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, just hop in and play what you play. I'm like, oh yeah, I my phone connects to the audio system and I play a Run the Jewels song. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, I'm not really familiar with this. So he's like, I don't know how it's supposed to sound. And I'm like, this guy totally thinks I'm just playing fucking rap. Cause he's like, he'll be like, the white guy's like, oh, the black gentleman will know how to tune this correctly with some RTJ. So with his music playing. And I'm like, I should have just played like Bon Jovi or some shit.
Whatever, dude. No, I mean, nothing sounds better than RTJ to my ear. Like,
yeah.
It, like sonically, like LP's beats, like his music is sonically almost like 3-dimensional. Like if LP I'm biased. I'm totally biased, but I didn't know LP from A Hole in the Wall before Run the Jewels, or actually rap music, the first album that he produced for Killer Mike.
Right.
And like that, honestly, that is a test for me. Like every time I tune my system in my Tahoe or change something or any of my cars, like I'm like, Run the Jewels. Like I know exactly how this is supposed to sound because I've listened to it on my home stereo system. I've listened to it in really great earphones. I've listened to it in the car, and the car is always like that's how you tune your car system. Like
right. But I left there,
inside and out, and if you hear something that you didn't hear before, then you know you've got it right.
Yeah. That's true. But I was driving
Also,
home
LP
like,
is white. Like this is the
no, I know. But I
like,
was driving home like I should have just played Pearl Jam.
but they, it reminds me of that one interlude, like at one of their songs where it's like, and if you don't like them, you must be racist because one's black and one's white. It's like you just can't hate, you can't escape.
No, I mean
Duality
the
of
great
music.
line is
You can't be racist listening to Run the Jewels. Really enjoy it.
right. But the great line is if LP didn't make it, get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
Which is pretty good. Is pretty good. There is a whiter song I could have played that I do know that is a great song for testing a sound system. One of the first, I think it was one of the first albums
Michael McDowell.
shot on like Laserdisc.
Oh my God, what are you talking about?
But Laserdisc audio was incredible.
Really?
Yeah, Laserdisc audio was.
I mean, I know they're different, but there was Laserdisc and mini disc. Were they like audibly
no.
like
Laserdisc was like, so I never had a Laserdisc player. Like
Laserdisc was just cinema. Like nobody released
it was, but the audio on it was like full at the time 5.1, like whatever, like Dolby surround, like crazy cinema grade audio. And so I never owned that shit because it was crazy expensive. But one semester in a summer between college semesters, I worked for a home theater installation place. My uncle was like a project manager there. We worked in like a bunch of rich houses in Boston. Oh, really?
I did car stereo, but we had a home audio division.
Okay. We were like primarily like rich people's home theaters. It was like crazy.
That's
crazy
what kept
shit.
This business alive. It was not my car audio installation.
Oh, okay. So I heard various things, and the Eagles made an album called Hell Freezes Over because they said they'd get back together when Hell Freezes Over. Mm-hmm. And the live version of Hotel California from that recording is like the most crystal clear sounding shit you've ever heard. And I think I have the lossless audio like a FLAC file, audio file, and it's you play it, you hear like what FLAC?
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, FLAC is like I'm getting super nerdy now on you. FLAC is lossless audio. It's like the closest shit you can get to like the purest version of the track without like being like, oh,
what physical medium or media is that available on? Like,
it's digital. FLAC is digital.
Okay.
It's like, so you know how CDs actually had really good audio quality? If FLAC is basically what like uncompressed CD music used to be, and then we compressed it all because everybody's like, no, we have MP3 players and all this shit, so we need to compress the files. But actual CD quality audio was really good for a while, and it was a lot. I think it was basically FLAC files. I'm not 100% sure on that because I'm not a crazy geek about it, but I do know that a FLAC audio file versus an MP3, it's like, holy shit. There is a difference with good headphones. It's wild.
Right.
And that song is really good if someone was looking for a song to test their audio system. We will play it in the Tahoe.
Let's go.
And it'll be the only time you'll be like, all right, we're good. No more Eagles.
You make me want to install a Laserdisc player in the Tahoe. My one and only Laserdisc experience was at my friend Damien's house in 1991 or 1992, whenever Silence of the Lambs came out on, well, it wasn't DVD then. It would have been VHS and Laserdisc. And his parents like had this $1 million mansion in Atlanta in 1991.
Damn.
It was 10,000 square feet, like state of the art, everything. I couldn't believe that they had a central vacuum. Like that was I was like, yo, can I vacuum? Because I already love to vacuum, but like the fact that I could just plug the hose into like the baseboard and just
that's crazy shit.
Like that was amazing to me.
That's rich person shit for sure.
Totally. But yeah, we watched Silence of the Lambs on Laserdisc, like on a Friday night, completely blacked out, like just like they had the craziest home theater system, and I've never like felt a movie, like experienced something like that, like 360, like even in the theater, like that, like their shit was like amped up, and it was like, it was kind of a small room relatively, and like I'm sure they had like tube amps and just like the best of the best equipment. And I was like, yo, Laserdisc is the shit. I
Yeah.
never ever experienced a Laserdisc ever again.
This was we had a showroom in Boston. There's like a district where there's like all home improvement stuff. Like if there's a flooring section and blah blah blah. And somewhere in there was an office for this home theater place. And we had a demo room that was like shaped round. And we would play the first Blade movie, because there's a scene when he first kills a lot of the vampires where he walks into a room that's round and he throws like a fucking knife around the room, and you could stand in that room and you're
Fuck yeah.
and it would go around your head, and I'd be like, yo,
Yes, dude.
what?
I love that shit.
But we used to go in to homes in every level of construction where I saw homes like I was lower middle class in Boston, and we would go to these homes where like, so there'd be frame. So at that point you'd be putting in wires. Later on, we come back when the drywall was done. You could do speakers and, hang TVs and shit like that. But some of these constructions in like towns like Newton, Mass, which is like real like bougie, fancy town. I saw the first time, I remember we're driving in, like you can't drive in the driveway because the driveway's under construction. You look and there's a bunch of tubes running back and forth in the driveway.
Because they were heated?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Melts the snow and ice. It's the most baller shit ever for a kid. I'm like, I can't believe that. We did this guy's house who owned or started like JanSport backpacks back in the day.
Oh,
he had this huge house in New Hampshire.
I was a customer.
He had 17 bedrooms, and each bedroom had its own separate satellite dish. Cause everybody could be watching. Cause like back then you couldn't watch like separate shit or something. So like everybody had to have their own receiver.
Yeah.
Gnarly shit. All right. We're going to move on to questions. And I'm going to start. We don't have a lot of questions tonight, which is not a big deal. But let me move on to our Instagram questions.
Why you had to say it like that?
Instagram. All right. D_wrench. Are we at peak car right now? I don't know what you mean by peak car, because I feel like cars.
But I agree. I would say yes.
Ron says yes from across his room as he fills his drink. I think we're at peak car price right now.
Peak car price, peak car performance, peak car everything. I mean, we've got the most powerful internal combustion engine vehicles ever. Like There's a power war in every segment. They're being supplemented with electric motors, and it's like you got Ferrari SF90, it's 1,000 horsepower hybrid. You got the Tesla
Plaid, which is 1,000 horsepower electric.
Like I just was on set for, now we can talk about it. I was just on set for this versus Plaid.
I'm so happy that Audi won.
Yeah, exactly. But it took a twin turbo, full aftermarket transmission, built like top end, twin turbo Audi R8, set to like 1,500 horsepower to handily beat $120,000 stock Plaid.
Bone stock.
Yes. Like, I mean, when we get to the point where we're modifying Plaids, then everybody's in trouble. Because, I mean, you're talking about a $250,000 exotic automobile.
Is the whole series going to be against the Plaid?
It is a season of, I think it's 6 episodes. It is a season of this versus Plaid. So
those shirts were corny as fuck.
Yeah, totally. And like, I'm not even sure they're Plaid, but it's a nice, comfortable shirt. But I don't know if that's Plaid or if it's just flannel. We had a debate, but anyhow, like it takes some serious engineering and horsepower to top what pretty much anybody that has a 670 credit score and like $100,000 annual salary can acquire.
Yes, you're right. You're totally right. Yeah, I can't wait to see what else is coming up. That's very funny.
Yeah, I mean,
very true.
It's interesting. I was shocked. Honestly, I was shocked at what it took to beat this thing handily.
So I guess we are at peak car right now. I think Ron's right.
Within 5 years, every manufacturer has basically said they're shifting to all electric. Audi's not developing anymore. internal combustion engines. Not Mitsubishi, Nissan just said they're not developing any more internal combustion engines. Like everyone's going full electric in the next 10 to 15 years. So yeah,
Right.
it's like while we're kind of in that in between zone, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying one is better than the other, but we've maxed out the potential of the internal combustion engine, and
Yeah. Yeah. And the Z06 is going to could be potentially a high watermark for that.
right,
Maybe.
right.
Um, Petrosexual asks, did you see the new Singer 930? Would love 28 minutes on opinions. Happy the pod's back. Have you seen this?
I have. It's sexy as hell, and like
It is. It is. It is sexy as hell. It is super cool.
mhm.
It's really neat to see what they're going to do with this. However, the prior chassis, the new they're
They're still
moving to the new
964
930.
based. So what do you mean prior chassis?
Okay,
It's not. It's not a
the different.
930. It's not that chassis. It's a 964 chassis that's backdated. Instead of like a long nose, it's backdated to like the G body, or not like
Is that what it is?
turbo. Yeah.
Okay.
They're all 964.
Well, for some reason, the other cars look better to me.
Okay, yeah. I mean, they resemble like this new one kind of resembles like the accordion bumper era.
Yeah.
And
Which I don't hate
I
at all.
even though I'm finally completing a restoration of a accordion bumper era
Right.
Targa. Like I don't love it. That's the one thing that I hate. But they're growing in nostalgia and value. And
God, yeah.
if you're going to do a turbo version, then that is the era of turbo that probably has the most nostalgia and
yes, right,
because they were
correct, yeah.
super hardcore. Like I'm sure it's not a 4-speed like those cars were.
No, they're not. They're 6 speeds.
But it harkens back to that aesthetic, and instead of trying to be like a long nose, like the previous singers, like I feel like honestly, how I feel is this is their answer to Gunther Works. It's like it's not so
Sure.
retro. It's almost retro future. So it's like we've got to up the ante. So we're going to a turbo power plant, and we're strictly like targeting that era of turbo car, but with a modern twist. Like
It's
the rear half of that car is super effing sexy. Like the front is not that, it doesn't deviate that much from like an 84, 85, 911. Like at a glance, it almost looks identical, but when you start looking at the details, they're unmatched. Like
of course. No. They're stuff's wild. And I love that it recently came out that Porsche Motorsport is building the fucking engines for Singer.
Correct.
Like what a reversal of that's so wild.
Like at first they were subject to lawsuits, from Porsche. Like, you can't use a Porsche name, but then they settled on the Porsche 911 reimagined by Singer, and like,
which is such horseshit.
But that felt like a setup for a future partnership. Now in retrospect,
true.
It like kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, like we're working towards working with you to build upon your brand's provenance and reputation historically,
right?
Bring it to a new audience and a newer, rich audience.
Yeah,
because the prices are exorbitant. But I like it as I like this new version, whatever the hell they call it. I like it as a supplement to all their other offerings. Like
sure,
the DLS is out of control. Like that's like,
of course, no, that's a different
$1.2 million. Like it's just that is like futuristic as hell. That is
the cost of 2 Singers.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that thing's out of control. But like this services a different audience like than the previous Singers.
Yeah, I agree. I really like it. Yeah, I agree. Here's a good question for you from Pretty Cool Projects. Should I upgrade wheel studs if I want to run wider wheels?
It's not necessary. Like, I mean, I'm assuming he has something European, like a Mercedes, Porsche, or BMW that has wheel bolts instead of studs. But it seems to be a common upgrade for anybody that's serious about motorsports to do a stud conversion on a Porsche, BMW, or Mercedes. But I think that's just for ease of changing wheels and tires. Like you hang the wheels on the studs and change lugs really quickly. It's kind of a pain in the dick to have like one wheel hanger bolt and then remove that like as you install all the
All right. Now we are re-recording because my computer crashed. Thankfully, the software we're using, I think, saved all the way up to this point. I'm
Zencaster.
saying
I
this
love you.
before I go and check it all.
Right.
But man, what the fuck was that? Fuck. We had some. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but it was good.
Right. I don't know either. I don't know.
I don't give a shit. I still think this is a good episode. I'm happy with this episode. I
Likewise.
don't remember. Oh, we were doing questions. That's what we were doing. We were doing fucking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, give me a sec. We did the one about the wheels.
Yeah, I talked about that was the last one. I talked about wheel lugs versus studs.
Pete Carr, Singer. And then the last question was from Rumble Strip: is the new completion date for the Wombat 2040? Fuck you. Funny question, but also fuck you. All right. We have a question on Twitter from that dude Pasha. Do you guys have? This is a good question. Do you guys have plans for FD/LBGP coverage live podcast? And when he said that coverage live podcast, my immediate thought was we should find someone to pay for us to do a podcast at the fucking race.
Yes. I
don't know who. I don't know how, but we should.
Totally. I think we can figure that out.
I think we can too, because we can both
betwixt the two of us.
We can get there and we can get VIP access pretty fucking easily.
I mean, literally, I can stumble down the block and get there.
I mean, we could do it from your place too, but we could also do it there. We know enough people to do it there.
Yeah, totally.
We just got to figure out who we want to talk to and who we want to work with that it makes sense for us.
Yes.
But no, it's a good idea, that dude Pasha. So we will talk.
I was just thinking about that today. Like that's just like a little more than 2 months away. Like it's insane how quickly that's come up. It's cool because Long Beach decided to leave most of the barriers up. So like all the streets are accessible, but like most of the K rails are still in place.
Still?
Yeah, they left them up because it's just like they've never had such proximity between one Grand Prix and another. Going from September to April. Normally it's at least 12 months apart. So they're just like, listen, like it's really not that big an inconvenience.
Right.
Like, let's just leave them up so that we don't have to drag all this shit out again in 6 months.
Okay.
So nice. you can almost approximate the Long Beach Grand Prix course. Long Beach Grand Prix course right now.
Yeah.
On the streets.
Nice. All right. Last question, and it's from our internal Slack from my man Pete, aka Tanshinomi, who does not have Instagram or Twitter. And I'm asking this because it's a really good question. Hey Jeff, I'm not on Instagram, but I have a question I've been pondering, so I'll throw it to you for the next podcast. How far back in time would you have to go for the performance of today's ordinary, competent, but non-performance cars, think Mazda 3, Bay Civic, to be mind-blowing performance to enthusiasts of that time?
I'd say mid-70s.
You think that far?
Yeah, totally. I mean, everything.
I don't think that far.
Everything reset in the mid-70s with the gas crisis. Like, you went from 400 plus horsepower big blocks to wheezing 2-barrel small blocks that put out like 175 horsepower.
Yeah,
like,
but
was just like cut off at the knees.
Dude, if we took a fucking Hyundai Veloster to the 80s,
sure,
it would wreck.
But I feel like there was a comeback in the 80s. Like it depends on when in the 80s, because
there was a comeback, but the performance was never like holy shit. There was this weird performance threshold for a while where like 300 horsepower was like the holy grail, and like 0 to 60 times were like sub 6. Yeah.
And I feel like it was a comeback from the mid 70s. Like
it was a comeback, but I feel like you could go. You don't have to go that far back though to blow minds. Like
Sure. Okay.
Modern Civic, modern
Yeah.
something. When you could do stuff on a racetrack or like in the quarter mile or all this.
Yeah.
People would be
Totally.
like, "Wait, what?"
When you talk about an entire performance envelope, not just horsepower, yes, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Like any car from today, any car would blow away just about any car from 1991.
yeah, yeah. And I have a car from 1991 outside, so I can confirm. Yes, that's true. But I'm wondering when the tipping point was specifically. Like, when did? Because there was a point when all of a sudden I remember like, oh, I never drove a neon ACR, and I always wanted to drive one of those. And I wonder if that was fun. And then there was I'm trying to think what else from like 2003.
I mean, I still feel like I need to qualify though. Like the difference between the underpowered cars of the 90s and 80s and the underpowered cars of the 70s is that the 70s cars were still big and heavy for the most part. Like, there was a few Japanese cars in that time, like, the 240Zs and such that were pretty lightweight and I don't want to say economical, but they didn't require a ton of power to be quick
Sure.
and agile. But, you think about like a mid-70s GM car that probably weighed 4,000, 4,500 pounds and made 170 horsepower. Like that was the worst of the worst.
Sure.
The same model, like a 75 Monte Carlo versus an 85 Monte Carlo. It's probably 1,000-pound difference and no horsepower difference.
Of course. But yeah. I think the true spirit of the question here is when would you, what like car, like basic bitch car from today, how far back could you go? How early could you go? And then just absolutely blow the minds of enthusiasts. And I feel like it's not as far as we think.
Sure.
Like today's base Civic, even to like dudes who are ripping muscle cars back then, stock, stock, because people could do crazy, even, you can still do cool shit.
Of course.
But like early 2000s was like a weird time where it's like, oh yeah, dude, fucking new Mustang makes 300 horsepower, bro. And like, that's what like hybrid minivans make,
Totally.
I mean, they don't, but we're close to it. I think the Pacifica probably makes like 280.
Yeah.
And like a base Civic with little horsepower can do wild shit compared to compared to like a 2003 Cobra. Like, fuck.
Yeah. I think performance numbers like didn't get any worse than the mid 70s. That's
totally. I totally agree. It was an abominable time.
Yeah.
There's the famous, everybody's like, oh man, you got a Bandit car? Like, you should be like, wait, what year?
Yeah.
That has 6.6 liters?
You got a turbo Trans Am?
Yeah. Well, not even the turbo. Like
85 horsepower?
You got 6.6 liters. You're like, yeah, it breathes through a tube that's the size of a fucking urethra. And it's like, please kill me. I mean, and the Bandit cars are rad as fuck, no matter what. Sure. But they're put up on a pedestal, and like if people knew,
Bandit movie cars were not stock. Like,
well, of course.
You weren't doing smoky burnouts with a stock.
No. And the people who own them would be the first ones to be like, yep, everything they're saying is 100% correct.
They trash.
Like, you need to remove every bit of emissions from like not just like exhaust. Like, you need to
heads, cam, intake, full exhaust, like full tune, like everything.
Everything.
To make those cars even remotely quick.
Yep.
They had the cubic inches, but everything else was choked down.
They had the cubes. They didn't have the pubes. That needs to be a shirt.
I knew you were going to say that. And like, I don't agree, but
it'd be actually a really like shitty, misogynistic shirt. Though men and women,
think it's misogynistic.
You know what?
In fact,
men and women have pubes.
Like when you think about the era, when you think about the mid to late
You had
70s.
pubes.
They had the pubes.
They had the pubes.
That's all they had.
And I take it back. I was reverse misogynistic. Men and women, we all have pubes. So I kind of want to explore this t-shirt idea. And I'm going to do it with people who can tell me when I'm in the right or wrong. I'm going to explore my gay friends, my trans friends. I'm going to talk to them.
Are you just certain we want to air this?
Yeah. No.
Maybe you
I
do
think
just
it's
want to
I think it's potential for a really funny t-shirt. And if we team up with the right people and they approve of the message,
yes,
I think there's something there. Like, are you down with cubes or pubes?
I don't think anybody's going to approve this message, but I'm down.
Dude, I am calling Victoria at the drive.
No way.
And we're going to figure this shit out because she will know the direction I need to take on this.
Let's go.
Yes.
Cubes or pubes?
Blip Shift is like, yo, you're not even going to be listed in our partner store anymore.
We are done.
It's going to be like the anti-Joe Rogan where like Rumble was like, we'll give you $100 million. It's going to be like some like depraved size. You're like, we'll give you $30. Please bring your pubes to Cube's shirt here. I'm like, okay, it was a bad idea. I'm sorry, Blip Shift. I'm sorry, everybody.
I have a couple ideas of where we could end up with that theme, but yeah.
Pubes for cubes?
Yeah, I don't want to mention them.
I'm going to be at a furry convention. I'm going to ask Deerfella what she thinks because, I'm going to reach the youth.
As long as you ask before you.
Oh, I got to ask. I would never not ask.
Yes.
Ron, I want to ask everyone.
Yeah.
Before I do anything. And I mean that from a position of empathy and caring about what everybody else thinks. Because I know that I was not born a wealthy person.
Sure.
At all. My parents
a certain amount of privilege there.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. We had no money, but we had no money as white people.
Right.
And on top of that, I'm a white man. I'm a cis, straight, white man. So I know.
To one of my personal heroes and our friend Killer Mike's personal heroes, Jane Elliott, who would just ask the question of white people, do you want to be treated like black people in this country?
Amazing question.
Stand up, raise your hand, say yes if so.
What an amazing...
Doesn't matter how big the crowd is. There are no hands going up.
No hands up. It's such a brilliant, simple question.
Yeah.
It is the most simple question. And you could do that same question and I was going to say
groups, like it's not just a black or white question. That is
it's far from it.
Yeah. It's a
I feel like and I don't want to say this because I don't want to diminish. Fuck, I'm getting into weird space now. I don't want to diminish the black experience because you and I have had a lot of conversation offline about various shit.
But that question is applicable to so many different marginalized groups in this country that it should be universal, and it should be a question that we all ask ourselves and say, hey, like if I don't feel like I'm special, if I feel like I'm, just
it's a base litmus test. It's a base litmus test.
Would I want to trade places with that person across the street? Would I want to experience life in America through their lens? And if not, why do we continue to, perpetrate and propagate those experiences and that, our own privilege? Like I have plenty of privilege. I admit that wholeheartedly. Like, I was raised by my black grandparents who were instrumental in the civil rights movement, but, I got a pass a lot of the time, and a lot of people didn't know that I was black or half black. it's a tricky subject, and everybody has their own experience. But when you think about it through somebody else's eyes and somebody else's experience, it's just like,
it's such a great,
okay,
basic question.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I was about to diminish it by comparing it to, not diminish it. Fuck, I'm using words I disagree with after I say them, because the conversations you and I have had on other topics, which I'm not going to get into here, but it almost gets tougher when you dive deeper into more, I don't want to say niche, but more targeted groups of people where
Sure.
like black is here, and then you get into like transgender, and then like gay, and like you start drilling down into that, like because then you could turn around, like as like, not to flip it on you, but like as a black man, I could flip it on you and be like, all right, same question, you with the black dude or the gay dude, excuse me,
Right.
and then like us two straight men, you flip the question to us too, and like we'll bring my Mexican buddy Robin here, like white, black, boom, we're three straight cis dudes, and we go, all right, same question to you, transgender, and we'd be like, fuck,
Right.
like no, like we would never want to live that way, and not only because like that's not who we are, it's because of how hard it is the heart of the question. I'm stumbling on my words. I'm trying to fumble for the right shit to say, and I'm trying to be.
Listen, I know your heart. I know where you
right.
I know where I come from. Like, you don't have to feel any sort of guilt or lack of consideration.
Well, not
we
to
just
you.
All have to be allies.
Not to you.
You have to realize, as a marginalized group, whatever group that is, whether you're Jewish, whether you're gay, whether you're black, whether you're Asian, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're trans, whatever it is, we just all kind of have to be allies to each other's cause, because it's like you can't further your own cause if you're not sympathetic to somebody else's. And it's like we can't grow and like encapsulate other communities if we're not sensitive to their needs, their issues, their personal concerns. Like, we all have them. They're different, but in the end, they're all the same. And it's just like, if you're an ally, you're an ally, because you're sensitive to everybody's.
I just want to be treated as a fucking human being.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's it. That's all anybody wants. And it's like, if you aren't sensitive to those needs, those concerns, those those societal troubles and discrimination, then you're not an ally. But if you've experienced that shit firsthand, then likely you are.
I just realized for that whole second half of the conversation,
my
mic was unplugged. Can you hear a difference?
I could hear you.
Can you hear a difference yet?
I don't know.
It probably hasn't switched mics. That's why.
I don't know, but I've had 3 glasses of tequila, so.
But I can see. There we go. Yeah.
My ears.
Oh, I can edit that in Premiere. God damn it. I was saying some like good shit.
I think audio quality does not diminish.
I'm just mushing my head into I'm just mushing my face into my fucking pop screen and my microphone. For those of you who don't know what a pop screen is, it's supposed to pop. It's supposed to stop your piece from going. And I'm gonna eat this.
Keep spit off your microphone. I don't have that.
My whole mic just fell off.
I think we're gonna have to cut this.
No, this is gonna be
40 minutes short.
Ron, I'm going to tell you, this is going to be the episode that people like the most. Welcome to the Hooniverse podcast. I'm going to click stop recording right there. I'm going to tell you right now, though, this is going to be the one that they like the most. And I feel like Johnny B. Good is holding that fucking microphone. And I'm so glad it was caught on video.